I'm just gonna start recording. Doesn't mean we have to start here. It'd just be better if we start recording.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Yeah, we found like a lot of times if we're like, okay, ready, start, go, podcast, then it's kind of awkward.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I get that.
But I feel like we do have to like introduce the guest.
Totally.
You know, you gotta be like Jake Reed in the house. You know, something like that.
Yeah.
So I could just use that if we wanted to. All right. So yeah, you want to talk about the gym?
Sure.
You want to talk about like any of the games over the week or?
We can. Yeah, I'm sports podcast. I'm down to talk
Right.
sports,
No.
You know.
Right, but I'm saying it could either be we talk about the games that like have happened or just like our experiences in sports. I'm saying like those are usually the two different ways we can go about it. You could talk about just being a minor league baseball player and like that kind of grind and like getting ready for spring training, or you talk about like, oh, Justin Herbert, you know, played the other day. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
So, we could do both, but I
Yeah,
just don't know.
we could touch on the minor league thing, you know, like,
Right.
but I feel like
We talk about the new gig.
we could talk about
Yeah.
the new gig.
I'm gonna introduce you as Los
Yeah.
Angeles Angel.
And I think we could even get into like how much baseball has changed just since I've been drafted, you know, like
Right.
it's a whole different world, you know.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
which is interesting, you know. I think to people who don't know much about it, it's like just as far as like evaluation of players, you know, like guys, their worth to their teams, you know, and like it's like when we first got into baseball, it was so different, you know, and now it's like you're sort of being evaluated by like the numbers you are putting up on a screen, you know, which not necessarily like a bad thing or a good thing, you know,
Right.
but it's just, I think it's interesting, you know?
Yeah, it's like it's sped up like the you know, there was like launch ankle was introduced and like to me at like in like 2015, and it's like from there to like Rapsodo. You know, like how big of a jump is that
Yeah.
from compared to like the 100 years before it, right?
Yeah, totally. It's crazy. Like you said, it's crazy how fast it happened, you know?
Yeah.
It's like when I first got drafted, it was for pitchers, you know, I don't know about hitters, but for pitchers, it was like command the ball, glove side, down and away, you know, and then bounce your breaking ball ahead in the count. Maybe every
Yeah.
now and then throw a high heater, you
Right.
know, but never would you throw a fastball consistently at the belt on purpose, you
Right.
know?
Right.
To now where it's like it's almost the opposite. It's almost gone so far that it's starting to come back. That like the sinker baller, you know, low and away down at the knees guy is like it's gone so far that he's almost that guy is starting to make a comeback, you know? So
Yeah.
like for a guy like me who's like a sidearm relief pitcher, it's like okay, now everybody's ripping four seams at the top of the zone. So
Right.
now, you know, the east-west sinker slider guy is starting to make like a little bit of a comeback, you know?
Because my theory has always been you want, you know, a guy that's doing something different than everyone else is doing, right? Like when we were growing up, you wanted to find the guy that was throwing hard because not that many people are throwing hard.
Yeah.
So now it's like if everyone's throwing hard, now you want someone that's not throwing that hard.
Right.
So you're changing up, you know, the timing
Right.
of the hitter.
Yep.
So I not only do I think sinker ball guys are going to come back, but in a little bit, guys throwing like, you know, high 80s,
Yeah.
you know, with
Totally.
just, you know, off speed stuff. It's going to be like, hey, that's a changeup of what we've seen.
Yeah.
You know, and that's going to throw hitters off. You know, do you watch if you were facing it like, if you for, you know, 2 weeks straight were just facing guys throwing mid to upper 90s, and then all of a sudden the guy came in with throwing like 87 with like all curveballs or changeups or whatnot, you don't think that would fuck you up?
I don't think I agree with you, but I don't agree with you.
Explain.
Like I think that would present a challenge as a hitter, but I don't think the evaluating, like the way people evaluate talent now, I don't think that you're gonna get that.
Sure.
Because they're just gonna look at those metrics and say that doesn't play.
Yeah, I would attest to that in the sense of like a big part of I think organizations, and I guess I'm just speaking from my experience with the Twins, but like a big part of their evaluation of players was projection, you know. So like how will this project at the next level, you know? So and then like I think the numbers they're interested in or really focusing on might be different from organization to organization, but I think a lot of them are similar. Like for pitchers, at least, like the spin rate or the vertical break on different pitches. You know, if you're throwing a sinker, how much is it sinking? You know, if you're throwing a four seam, how much is it riding? If you're, you know, how much is your breaking ball breaking? You know, and so those numbers I think are being valued from different organizations a little differently, but I think for the most part it's pretty consistent, you know, and like I've seen it work for both guys, you know, so like I guess this is kind of where like it's gotten I think it's improved, you know, so like when I first got drafted in 2014, the big thing was like being a prospect, right? Like if you weren't a prospect, if you weren't a guy that got money, you know, you had to play better than you've ever played in your life to get a shot to move up, let alone get to the big leagues, you know? So like I said, you had to be one of those guys to be sort of valued in your organization. And now it's gotten to the point where, like I said, it's improved to where if you were a guy who was a free agent signed, didn't get drafted out of high school or college or JUCO, whatever it may be, if you are putting up these numbers that they value, you know, you could potentially have a shot to move up. You know, I played with a kid, Randy Dobnak, who pitched in the playoffs a couple years ago against the Yankees, you know. And a year before that, the guy was pitching in or maybe 2 years before that, he was pitching in an independent league in its first year. You know, so he had gotten to the Twins, and, you know, when you're just watching this kid pitch in the bullpen, it's like, okay, it's pretty good stuff. Like, really good sinker, pretty good slider, good changeup. He was a right-handed starter. Didn't throw super hard, you know, but, like, pretty good stuff. But 6 years ago, you know, being a guy out of he wouldn't have got a shot, right? Like, he wouldn't have signed. But B, if he did somehow get into an affiliate, he wouldn't have had any shot to move up, you know, but because he was performing well on the field and he was performing well, you know, on the TrackMan and the Rapsodo, he shot up through the system. And in 18, I think he made his debut and has pitched well up in the big leagues, you know, so I've seen it work well for those guys, but I've also been on the other end of it where I had back-to-back years in AAA with like a 2, you know, and 50 innings with more strikeouts than innings, you know, like low walks, good numbers, you know, by you know, almost all measurements, but like not performing well, not projecting well on the you know, the analytics, on the advanced analytics, you know, the spin rate, you know, the
That's what I want to talk, like, to be clear, what you're talking about, like numbers, is that you're not talking about, you know, ERA, strikeout. You're talking about the analytics of baseball, which has changed over the past couple of years.
Yeah, I guess I should clarify that is like, and you know, the guy that I highlighted, like Dobnak, he was doing well in both, you know, but in baseball 5 or 6 years ago, he could have been doing extremely well on the field, but you know, because we weren't looking at these analytics and the advanced numbers, he wouldn't have had a shot, you know. But now, because there's so much value in those things, you know, he's getting an opportunity. Whereas guys who were, you know, putting up those more traditional numbers with the ERA and strikeouts and whatever else, you know, that they were valuing before, you know, not walking a ton of guys, but it's just not worth as much as it used to be, you know.
Can I ask, do you like the fact that that's where the game is now? Like, do you like that there's been so much emphasis put in these type of numbers over your traditional successful numbers of, you know, ERA, strikeout ratio, all that kind of stuff, hits per 9, whatever you say. Like, do you like the fact that it's gone to where it's just what do your pitches do, and not so much an emphasis on getting guys out, which you could argue that's the objective of being a pitcher.
Right. Yeah, it's like
you think it's helped you more than it's hurt you?
I think me personally, I think it's maybe hurt a little more, you know, to where, I mean, just opportunity-wise, like, I think, you know, a few years ago with the Twins and back-to-back, you know, really good years in AAA, I was, you know, 25, 26, Rule of 5 eligible, like, Twins were out of it. You know, I think probably deserved at least a chance, you know, to go up there and just compete. You know, I think that's kind of where it's hurt a little bit is that I just miss competing. You know, there were times where it's like with the Twins where you'd come off, you know, a good outing, and then you'd hear something negative the next day because, you know, your pitches weren't performing the way that they wanted them to. But then on the flip side of that, like I've seen how quickly your value can change, you know, and just based on, you know, the numbers that they're looking at, you know, for a guy like Randy Dobnak who wouldn't have had a chance a few years ago, and even myself now, you know, to where, you know, the Twins kind of dropped me down a couple years ago, and I was, you know, a hard throwing right-handed reliever, and like we mentioned earlier, so is everybody else. Right. You know, it's like everybody's throwing hard. Right. I've always been a low slot guy, so the Twins, you know, for pitch performance reasons, wanted to drop me down, and I think that added value to myself with the Twins, you know, to where they were honest with me, which I appreciate, and pretty much told me like, what you're doing is not enough to be in the big leagues with us, so you need to make a change. You know, and I think that change, it added value to myself as a reliever to where other teams were noticing, you know, the success that I was having against righties, the improvements that I was making against lefties based on just hard contact, you know, and strikeouts against righties. And so there were a lot of good things that came out of it. I will say, though, that I do miss just competing with what feels comfortable. I miss gripping, you know, four seam in my hand and just not really caring about, you know, the spin rate or this or that, and just going like, I'm just going to throw this, you know, I'm confident in it. I think there's something to conviction that we may be losing when we're focusing on these little tiny things so much. You know, I think there's like a level of competition that is sort of diminishing that I think is starting to creep its way back into baseball, though, which is good. Yeah.
Can I tell you, that was my favorite part about pitching overseas, is that all that mattered was just getting guys out, and that's all you had to focus on. And you didn't have to focus on how hard you're throwing or spin rate. All they cared about is just getting guys out. Yeah. And it was a very freeing feeling, you know, compared to the past couple of years of that feeling like you talked about of like having a really good outing. And then it's like, yeah, but, you know, your velo wasn't this or your spin. It's like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do with that. You know, I just went 6 or 7, you know, got my strikeouts, like pounded the zone, like switched up, you know, timing, you know, pitches and whatnot. And it's like, yeah, but, you know, you didn't hit this number. Yeah, it's like it's just really hard to pitch like that. I feel like
it's almost like are you really playing the game anymore? Yeah, you know, or just like like everything's happening separate from each other. Like I'm just on the mound trying to throw the best ball, and the guys in the box just trying to take the best swing, but they're not actually interacting.
Yeah, and it's you know it's also sort of been interesting on the opposite end of that, where it's like I've had outings where I've given up a 2 spot or a 3 spot where I've come off, and then, you know, a coach was like, that was really good, you know, because I struck out 4 and I got, you know, 12 swing and misses in 2 innings or whatever, and maybe gave up some weak contact. But, you know, a few years, it's like you give up a 2 spot, you're gonna be feeling it, you know, like it doesn't feel good. You're not doing what you're supposed to be doing as a pitcher, you know. But then it's like the next day you come off and you see your TrackMan charts and you see the swing and misses, and you're like, and then you're told that boosted your stock or that got you closer, and you're like, it's hard for us to sort of recalibrate our brains and I think that's a good thing. I don't really want to recalibrate my brain. I want to continue competing, you know, and hopefully like be in a spot where that is going to be, if I'm getting guys out, pitching well, where that's going to be valued, you know. And I think that's like, there's 2 ways to look at it. You know, you can, I've seen it where guys have let that get to them and you know, not buy in, and they get released, and because in large part due to that sort of like resistance and that attitude towards it of like, man, screw this, you know. And then I think that the side or the approach that we should take, the most healthy approach for us as athletes, is just like, all right, like this is the way that it's going and there's no stopping it, you know, and just sort of like adapting, you know, while maintaining that like that healthy competition, you know, and that's why it was like, you know, like during quarantine we were playing a lot of tennis, you know, or like I was playing a lot of beach volleyball, and like I hadn't felt that like that fire in a long time, you know, and it was so refreshing. We get after it. And it's like it's cool to like to still balance that out. And like especially for me, like this summer I played a ton of beach volleyball, and it was like there were times where I was like punching the sand and like getting really fired up and angry, and I'm like, I haven't felt this in a long time, you know.
But you were a really interesting case like this year as a guy. You were in your first big league camp.
No, that was my fifth.
Your big league camp?
Mm-hmm.
Oh. Well, are you being serious about that?
Yeah.
You made it seem to me like this was your first big league camp.
No.
But you were going into it with a really good shot
Yeah.
at making the big league team.
Totally.
Is it fair to say that was your first year of that?
Yeah, I would say this is the first.
You had told me that this spring training was unlike any other.
It
spring
was.
training.
I got in there, like, got into my locker. Like, every other year I've been in the 80s,
Right.
in the 90s, or in the 70s. Like, I had 49 this year, and whatever that's worth, whatever the reason was, I don't know. But, like, you're right. Like, I went into it, and I saw, like, my locker. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay.
So that was the point I was
Yeah.
trying to make. Whereas then that spring training was obviously cut short because of COVID, and then you weren't part of the restart up, taxi squad,
Mm-hmm.
but they were telling you to like stay ready, Like, do you think that added to you needing that fix of kind of adrenaline more because you were, carrying that with you where it's like, damn, I thought this was my year basically going into it. And, I've been one of the guys that's been screwed the most based on what's happened. Like, do you think that played a role in you needing to play so much beach volleyball or tennis, like you're saying, and get that fix of that feeling?
I think it probably played a part, but I mean, I think that's just like what we do for fun, like it's like every summer, like I don't know about you guys, but like I love baseball, but every summer I'm like, I see my friends, I see my group texts about going surfing, or I see my group texts about just hanging out or playing beach volleyball or whatever, and just like I hadn't been home for a summer and since we were in high school probably, so I think there was part of it where it was like I needed to I guess fill that lack of competition with something, but I think most of it was just like that's what we enjoy doing. Like we enjoy playing sports,
Right.
That's like what, like one of the first podcasts you guys did, we were like, you were talking about like athletes, and like what is a good athlete. I'm like, to me, I'm more along the lines of like the Swiss Army knife type of athlete that is just like somebody who can compete at a lot of different sports, and not just to do it, but because they enjoy it, like, and that's how I am. Like I love competing. I love playing sports, for fun. That's just like, that's what we do.
Do you feel like you can turn it on and off, the competitiveness? Because I know for myself and like a lot of, I think Bennett too, like there's no off switch sometimes where there should be one.
So I felt like I could until I ran into that a little this summer with, like I said, I got pretty heavily into beach volleyball, and I had one group of people that I was playing with, and it was a bigger group, and it was sort of a less competitive group, and I was getting a lot better really quickly. Like my sister grew up playing volleyball, so like I had already had some like fundamental skills, and I would consider myself a pretty good athlete. Like for whatever reason, always been able to jump and just like the quickness and stuff, like that's always been there. So like I was sort of like suited for this sport, and so I was only playing with this group that wasn't super competitive, and I wanted it to be competitive, and I don't think they necessarily did. So I ran into the problem of like carrying my wants and desires as far as wanting it to be competitive on these people who didn't, and it sucked, like, and what I found out about the beach volleyball world is that it's just like, it's kind of a small world of people, and to get into groups, because it's 4 people, you need 4 people to play, and to get into like a group like that, these guys have been playing together for years, you need to like have a connection, or know somebody, and then get in, and once you're in, you have to play well for them to call you back, and so I ran into that this year for sure. And then luckily, actually through Riva, John, our trainer's wife, I started playing with her a little bit, and then through her met a couple guys that we started playing with kind of consistently, and then finally like got into a bigger group to where I was like playing every day. And then when I had that group of like competitive, getting after it, I had a balance to where I was able to like to just have fun with the other group, and I wasn't like, I think it got to the point where the other group just didn't even really want to play with me anymore, and you guys may have been there before. It's like, I don't want to play this board game with Bennett or whoever, because no offense Bennett, but just like
none taken.
It's like,
I
because it's like, so it's like I think I'd kind of gotten close to that with that group, and it's Yeah, I know what you're saying. I've been there.
Yeah.
See, we talked about when we would play tennis. I remember you were telling me, this must have been early on, because you were telling me that story about, the people you were playing beach volleyball with, and like they weren't that into it, and I was into it, and we got in this conversation where I had said, we at least at the time agreed, where I was like, if I'm ever playing with you on something, hold on, what just happened? Oh, my laptop went off. If we're ever playing something and I'm against you, or we're on the same team or something like that, and you ever go, yeah, it's just a game, I'm never playing with you again.
Yeah.
That's just like,
Cut off.
and I'm fine with being like, I'm weird for that, and you having a problem playing with me, and maybe you're thinking, okay, I also don't want to play with Bennett, but like, if you're ever like, yeah, it's just for fun, I'm like, to me, none of this is for fun. Like, to me, it's fun competing at that level, But like, yeah, playing with those people that feel that way, I've never been able to do it, and it has been a problem for me, where I'm sure a lot of people don't want to play with me.
Yeah, and that might be a reason why. I would say that's a big contributor to where we've gotten in our careers. To where if we didn't have that, some of that in us, I'm not sure we could be professional athletes.
Right.
I think part of what's helped me is just doing my best, understanding that like not everybody is like on that level, and like, I mean, I like with my wife is like the same way, it's like we'll be playing a card game at night before bed, and it's like if she loses,
You ain't going to bed.
we ain't going to bed, or she's going to bed before I mean, it just so, and that, I think that is like what makes her so good,
Right.
is like that is just that like hating to lose mentality, and sometimes it may not be super fun to be around, or I may not be very fun to be around when I lose or do poorly or whatever, but it's like, I think you have to have that in order to have success in athletics,
Absolutely, 100%.
I was gonna say, me and D-Wash talk all the time about you have to be wired a certain way, and so when some of these guys like that seem a little what you would call like crazy, be like, oh, why do they have to act like that? It's like you kind of have to in a weird way. Like, I'm not saying there's many different ways to do it, but like, yeah, I think a lot of people, you have to be wired a certain way to dedicate your life to sports. I mean, it's kind of a weird thing if you think about it. So like, you do have to be a little crazy, I feel like.
Yeah. No, I agree.
And some people show it different ways.
Yeah.
Because I always hate when people are like, this guy's super competitive or whatnot. Now, I think there's varying degrees of competitiveness. But everyone, I feel like for the most part, I've ever played with or known that's played a sport their whole life is competitive on some level.
Yeah.
It's just, people show it in different ways. I'm probably a little bit more demonstrative in the way that I show it. But even people that don't show it that way, like, they still inside are... in my experience, they've still been the same way.
Yeah.
Was beach volleyball the first time you realized that like not everyone is trying to compete at the highest level they can? Because I know it took me a while to understand that.
Yeah, like I would assume it's probably similar for like playing basketball in the off season.
Yeah.
Honestly, like I had gotten to a point in the summer where I just like my athletic skill set, I just I say a big part of me feels like it's being wasted as a relief pitcher, like I have, like I can jump, legit 40-inch vert, like can run.
I synced it.
Yeah, so it's like there's a big part of me that's like, what the heck am I doing? Like, and there's a big part of me this summer that was like, I picked the wrong sport, like I should have been doing this like like a long time ago. And so I guess it was like the first sport that I had played other than baseball, like competitively, and then like gave a thought in my mind of like, could I do this? Like could I, like, because I honestly, like, going into this off season wasn't expecting much, like to be signed, because like my thought process and just valuation of myself was sort of wrapped up in what the Twins thought of me. And so I assumed that that's what the other teams thought of me, so I was like, free agency is gonna be crazy this year, with COVID, like I don't think there's a lot of teams that think super highly of me. So it's time to start kind of like preparing for that next step, so like started real estate school in the during quarantine. You know, finished that and just sort of like started prepping myself to like move on. And I think a big part of that honestly was like beach volleyball. I was like, I kind of want to keep training for this, you know, and just like seeing where this could take me, because there's guys, I mean, the best teams right now in the country that in America, like the guys, there's a couple 40-year-olds still doing it, you know, like at a high level.
You're talking about beach volleyball.
Yeah, beach volleyball. Yeah. And so I had given that a thought, you know, and so because of that, because it was like something that I was taking seriously and it wasn't just like a fun weekend thing or pickup thing, like I was like pushing that like on the other people that I was playing with, you know. So every time I was playing, I was taking it as an opportunity to like get better, to still enjoy what I was doing, but like I was taking it fairly seriously, you know, to where I was like talking to Jono about it, you know, of like I think I could potentially do this, you know, training for a year or two and really make a run at this. So I think that had a bigger effect on the way that I was like viewing playing, you know, like it was like I was almost, just because of how I think of baseball as like a profession and a job, I was almost like equating that to like beach volleyball a little bit. You know?
Yeah.
We should probably now address Jono. Mm-hmm. You brought him up a couple times. Our trainer, Jono Green. Mm-hmm. That's how we all met.
Yeah. No, I had thought about that. Like, I'm happy for you guys, because I think you guys were able to turn a rather large distraction into a podcast, into doing what you guys enjoyed doing. It's like when we first met,
right?
I mean, that's a whole different story. But when we became friends, it was very clear, like getting to know you guys a little better, that you guys enjoy talking. Yeah. And it would take up an entire session, and I would just hope that it wasn't something I was interested in so I could get through my workout, you know. But if it was something that I was interested in, it was like, you're going to be there for 3 hours and it's going to be a very subpar lift, you know.
Right. But the other argument is, what else you have to do?
What else do I have to do in the gym?
In the day.
Oh.
You know, like if it takes 3 hours instead of 2 hours, but we have compelling conversation.
Yeah.
That's a good day, I feel like.
To me, it's more of like the quality of the lift. Like, you know, I want
That's
30
fair.
seconds to a minute in between every set or whatever the time is, you know. But instead, like, there'd be times where it's like, hey, I kind of want to get in on this conversation. And then it's like, you just took 8 minutes off between sets. You're like, why do my legs feel so fresh? You know, It's like, oh, I just took 10 minutes off, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I apologize for being so good at having conversation.
No, it's like I said, I'm pumped for you guys, because you guys have channeled your distraction into something healthy.
We turn a negative into a positive.
Right.
I feel like that's what you want to say. You just don't want to call it a negative.
Exactly. And it is cool, you know, how like we have. That's the cool thing about baseball, and then even the off season, being in a place like San Diego where there are so many ball players, you know, in the off season, is that like you get to continue that like fellowship with other baseball guys, you know. And then in the gym, it's a great environment. We've had a lot of fun in the gym, you know, from like at the old gym, it's like we had a lot of space. We were playing spike ball, you know, to now where it's like we're not only just like lifting together, but like we're doing stuff together on the weekends. You know, D-Wash had his birthday the other day. We had a bonfire, just like stuff like that, you know. So it's been cool, you know.
Yeah, so talk about that then, of like, we've obviously become close friends over the years, but like when you first, that experience when you're working out with the guys, and it's obviously a great thing, like that first time, you know, like meeting like new guys in that environment, like how your first impression then goes into when you're spending every day together.
Oh my gosh, I was thinking first impressions of Bennett and D-Wash. I'm like, what was it? And it honestly, it took probably 2 solid off seasons for at least you and I to say more than 10 words to each other. Right. And I guess same with us, D-Wash, but like both of you guys, it was just like you guys, you were sort of the vets around the gym. You guys had been with Jono, you know, for longer than I had. Bennett was an interesting one. You're an interesting one.
Let's hear it. Let's get into it. We got time.
You were, I sensed that competitiveness right away. It's like playing just like I thought was friendly spike ball, to where it was like I wanted to beat you bad, you know, like I wanted to beat you so freaking bad. And then,
But did you? That's the question.
I don't know if I ever beat you two. Like,
No,
and I'm like, there's some good athletes in the gym. You know, like Joe Musgrove is like, I mean, he's a freak, you know, and I think there were times where I played with him and I couldn't beat you two, you know, and you get that, I guess that is.
Manny's
great.
An amazing spike
Yeah.
ball player.
And I played games with Manny, and it's like, I don't think I ever, you know, got past that. Still to this day, I don't know if I've beat you two, at least in like a 3-game series.
I'll take because we haven't bragged too much, but the duo of Bennett and David never lost a series
Yeah, that's
of
incredible.
spike ball matches. We would play best of 3 series, and we would occasionally lose a match, but never the series.
I think this
I gotta
would be the
honest,
time.
not to go too much on that. If we've lost even a game, to me, it's been like 1 or 2.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even think we've lost that many games.
I think
we
now
haven't
would
played
be
in a
the
long
time. I
but
think now would be the time with. I know I could get you, Bennett, because
Easy.
you've been off.
Easy.
You've been off. You just got back into the
Easy.
gym. I know D-Wash has been.
That's your problem. You think it's all athleticism.
No, but
At this point, there's just like momentum, I think, still left over, where
Maybe.
it's like you look across that net and you see the two of us, and it's like, do we really think we can win? It's kind of like seeing MJ with the Bulls. Like
It's
when you
exactly like that.
you know, in The Last Dance, where they're saying like, you know, that he had been playing baseball, you know he's probably not like, you know, ready, but also it's like that's still MJ.
yeah. No, I appreciate your guys. I respect the success you guys have had, but
Thank you.
But you guys, honestly, like first coming into the gym, like there was intimidation there. You guys had an aura about you, a presence. And it was intimidating, and it took a long time to like crack that, you know, to where it's like now we can banter.
Right, so let's go through that process.
Yeah.
Like, how does that happen? Is it years? Is it months?
It was years.
Because it's similar. Like you go to a new team,
Yeah.
and you're meeting new guys in the clubhouse. And me and D-Wash talk about this, but like, you know, sometimes you make friends right away, and then as time goes on, you're like, actually, no, we're not that tight, or vice
Yeah.
versa. You're like, you know, you felt one way about somebody, and as the season goes on, you get, you know, a lot closer. It's kind of
Yeah.
the same thing. I feel like of the group that we work out with, you know, it's
Yeah.
kind of like that, and
Yeah.
that's kind of what we're talking about. So
There's an interesting thing that happens in the beginning of like minor league career, which is like you have the guys who have been in the organization on a team, and the guys who just got drafted. Say, and like for me, I really noticed it in like short season A. You have like, you know, say it's like half and half, and like those first few days, it's like the two don't really associate with each other, just because it's like for no real reason other than they're just unfamiliar.
Yeah.
And it's like I feel like that coming into a new gym is sort of like that, where you got like, I know for me, like it's like I felt it at Symbiotic, where it was like, you know, we have like our group at this point that have been together for years,
Yeah.
and then you have like, wait, who's, you know, who are all these new people that just got drafted?
Yeah. Yeah, no, you're right. That's there. And that was there at the gym. You know, there's almost like a level of like, I mean, you can't hold it against, like I'm not holding it against people for it being their first year with a team or with Jono, you know, or whatever, but there is like a, you know, just from the amount of time we've spent together and the amount of work that we put in together, I think there is like a camaraderie thing to it. But then there also is like, I think it's probably like our responsibility a little bit to like when there is new blood in the gym, you know, or it's a young kid that comes into the gym, I think it is like a little bit of our responsibility to like make that first move or to make that first connection and just like continue morning by morning, like saying what's up, you know, making sure we know their name, you know, even that, you know, so like, and I've not always been the best at that, you know, but like now going to a new team, I'm hoping, you know, the last couple years with the Twins, I did my best at it because I was an older minor league guy, you know, like I'd been with the Twins for a long time. It's like if you're with an organization in the minor leagues for as long as I was, it's like it's kind of crazy. You know, you either get to the big leagues or you get released, I feel like, in that. But like I was with them for like I played my whole minor league contract with one team, so 6 spring trainings, you know. So I kind of looked at myself like in the big league clubhouse, I may have been a new guy, but as soon as I got sent down, it's like I had been there, you know, for the longest really. So like I think my last couple of years I got a little better at that, but yeah, like when I first met you, like my first impression of you is like this guy is dancing, you know, like that you were always dancing.
Always
you
dancing.
know,
He's talking about D-Wash in case
Yeah,
the
D-Wash,
ones that
not
can't
Bennett.
see that.
D-Wash was always doing these dance moves, like these weird steps that I was like secretly in my mind. I'm like, okay, like because I'm a big dancer, you know, I like to dance, I like to sing, I'm a big music guy. So
I just remembered to ask you something.
yeah, so I like that. Bennett seemed, now knowing you, I know this is not who you are. You seemed a little cold, a little short. You know, like I had to earn my way. I had to earn my respect with you, and I
Right.
think.
I think that's accurate.
No, you're right, and I think it took us a couple years, and you know what really pushed us over the edge
What's that?
was the poop. it was the house
Well,
party.
now we have to talk about that story.
It was the
Yeah.
house party poop.
Okay.
Okay, and that is what I feel like took our relationship from gym mates to
Okay.
really good friends.
I feel like we have
gotta
to
hear the story.
Well, you were there.
I don't.
You were
Yeah,
there.
but apparently I don't like because I didn't experience it the
We
same
have
way
to
you
add
two did.
context to the story.
We need, and it's like we've talked about. You guys have talked about the stigma of pooping, and
Right.
so I think
Right.
it's definitely a story worth telling.
Well, first of all, I want to say I appreciate you being honest.
Mm-hmm.
I did not know that specifically. If I'm being honest, I thought we were tight before that story happened,
yeah,
but that's okay.
I'm saying took us to like the
Okay.
next level.
So I'm going to tell the story
Tell it.
to give some context because
Make sure you tell it honestly.
I will always every story. So we previous guest Manny Navarro, he was having a party, like a going away party, 2-3 years ago, something like that.
yeah.
About 2 years ago, he was getting ready to go to Ray's spring training. It might have been his first time he was going. So we were having a party. We were all at his house. There was probably like 15, 20 of us, maybe 15. And some of them have gone like outside to, hang out or whatnot. There was a little outside portion. And me and Jake were inside just hanging out, talking. And, there was, lots of dips and, there was alcohol. And, I had to poop. And it happens. And I was close with everyone there, so I didn't think it was that big of a deal. If you've seen our Instagram video, I talk about I don't see why it's a big deal having to poop in public or use someone's bathroom. That's what it's there for. So I don't remember if I told you or I just got up and went.
you
But
went.
I was like, I think I said something because I think you were just like, yeah, sure, man. Like, cool. Like, do what you got to do. I was like, yeah, that's right. We're boys. Like, it's not that big of a deal.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm in the bathroom. I start the process. Don't need to go into that. And I hear everyone kind of come inside. And I don't remember if they said, like, where's Bennett? Or they even got that out. But the second they get inside, Jake yells, like, across the room, hey, Bennett, Bennett's in there pooping. And I was like, whoa, man. Like, and then I came out and you were like, well, you struck me as the kind of guy that wouldn't have a problem with that. I was like, I don't have a problem with it. I'm not ashamed of the fact that I had to poop. But, like, the fact that you just called me out like that in front of everyone, I guess was our becoming good friends. I didn't realize that at the time.
Like I said, I think that off season we started like getting a lot closer to
Yeah.
where it was like we were able to have conversations. We weren't just like going to the gym.
And you felt comfortable
I
calling
felt
me out
comfortable.
in front of
Exactly.
everyone.
I
got
felt
you.
comfortable enough to call you out on your
Maybe we should go back to not being so close.
pooping. But okay, so you said we knew most people there. You know, this was a small house. You know,
Right.
one bathroom. Everybody's if you got to go pee, you got to use this bathroom. You know, so there was
Poo trumps pee every day of the week.
no. I'm not saying that. I'm
Okay.
just saying like to me. Here's my thing about it. Okay, with people I don't know. Okay, you take that poop. Okay, with the mix of dips, with the mix of beer. Okay, with different things in your tummy. You take that poop, probably not a good smelling poop. Now, somebody that you don't know, and at this point, there's plenty of time left that we're going to be spending together. You know, like the night is young.
Right.
Bennett goes and poops. Now, you come right out, and somebody that you don't know that well is sneaking in right behind you, you know? And then they come out, and it's like, you know what just happened in there. Probably an explosion of some sort. And all of the when they see you, they think of stinky poop guy.
Okay.
And so we go. I think we go later that night to Ballast Point. We go grab a beer somewhere else, and everybody that walked in that bathroom after you, Bennett,
Right.
thinks you're stinky poop guy.
So
So that's when you pop up in their mind in any conversation, and maybe maybe partly because I kind of snitched you out, but now it's like when people think of you, this isn't all they think of you of,
Right.
but like one of the things that comes into their mind is like, that guy pooped at a party.
Okay, so I have to ask you. I need to know this. What would you have rather me done? Okay,
just hold it.
No, that okay. That's not an option. So when it's not an option, what would you rather me do?
I would have gone to, I'd be like, man, I need to go get some more beer. I'm gonna go to the gas station.
So I have to leave the house, go to a gas station, rather than just use the bathroom that's there.
Tell me, man, what do you want to be known as?
Can I ask you a question? Whenever you get to a point where, because you move around off season, right?
Yes.
Like you
Yeah.
don't always
Oh,
stay in
yeah.
the same
Yeah.
house. So like if you get to a point where you buy a house, are you just not going to put a toilet in?
Oh no, I'm a big pooper.
So that's the
Huge pooper.
That's the objective of it being there. So why can't I
in
use
my
it?
house?
So if I come over your house and, I have to poop, I
okay.
can't.
So
I can't
here's the
use it?
thing, though. No, you can because we're there. You know, like, but it's the
a
thing.
bathroom.
I know, but
Why do I have to be there with somebody?
But see, to me, it's like I want to be there, you know, before I go there. You know, I've talked to a lot of couples who it's like this. I think is pushing it like maybe too far, but it's like when they move in together, or whatever, they're afraid to like poop in front of each other, or like somebody told me the other day, like, yeah, my girlfriend or my wife or whoever still goes downstairs and poops in the lobby. So I'm like, okay, that's too far, right? And maybe my thought is perpetuating that, you
This is
know,
making me upset.
maybe it is, Bennett, but when there's people I don't know in a little tiny house in the only bathroom, I'm probably sneaking down to the gas station or something, or going outside, just
I think-
finding a bush or something.
Yeah,
You want me to go outside?
I'm just kidding. I wouldn't
and
find
take
a
a
bush.
shit
No,
in
no,
a
no, no.
bush rather than just
No.
use the bathroom.
Yeah, I think it's fine. Like I don't think there's anything wrong with using the bathroom,
No.
but I think you also have to accept that like that is how people are going to remember you
Yeah.
if they don't if they didn't know you before and they don't know you for much else.
That's fine.
Stinky poop.
You think, in all honesty, you think I care in that situation?
No, I don't.
'Cause you've
But what
obviously-
he's saying is you just have to live with that, right?
That's fine. I'm saying clearly you're the type of person that's never been in a situation where like you had a minute.
I did.
to find
I've
a
had
bathroom.
one.
No, you clearly haven't.
I have a high school football game. I
Because-
had to go poop on the other team's sideline.
Right. So if I just told
In
you
a
to
porta
hold
potty.
it there, what would you have done?
I mean, we were in our all whites, so it wouldn't have been good. If I'm the backup quarterback, if our quarterback goes down,
So
who's
in that
going into the
situation,
game?
if you would have
poopy
been
pants,
if you would have been at a friend's house, what would you have done?
friend's house, I'm pooping.
You would have been at a stranger's house. What are you doing?
Stranger's house, we're in a different conversation.
What are you doing? We're having that conversation.
If it's an emergency, I'm going in there like hoping the bathroom is not near where people can hear me. Okay, that's one. Two, I'm looking for a match. I'm looking for poopery. I'm looking for air freshener. And then three, I'm going as many courtesy flushes as it takes to make sure that A, I eradicate the smell as quickly and efficiently as possible, and B, that there's the least amount of noise possible.
This is crazy to me.
Yeah,
It's a natural thing that happens in everyone's body.
Yeah, it is.
Everyone goes through it.
Right.
Oh my gosh.
Nobody likes the smell of it.
Stinky poopy guy.
I'm not saying I like the smell of it, but I understand that was. I mean, I'd rather you do
Starting
it
to think,
there.
do you like it?
I would rather you use my bathroom than shit your pants on my couch. I don't even understand why this is a discussion.
Oh no, I would rather that too. Right. I would much rather that. But that was, I mean, that, like I said, that kind of like blossomed, your poop blossomed a beautiful friendship.
All right, really quick before we get to the end of this, I do want to ask you because you brought up you've seen D-Wash when you came into the gym and he was dancing and you were like, "Oh, I like dancing too."
Yeah.
And it made me think of did you ever at any point in your life, like let's say you were in high school, like were you ever in like a dance group and you like and called yourself like let's say you called yourself like the Wild Boys with a Z. Like if was that hypothetical?
No, this is my
this
first
is
time
new.
hearing about
Was
it.
that is that a hypothetical thing or is that a thing
This
that actually
is a
happened?
thing, man.
Okay.
This is a thing. So, like I said, I've always been into dancing. Like, I love to dance. And so in high school, we had a thing, and it's a thing in a lot of high schools in San Diego. I just think it's like less, it's not as big of a deal maybe in other schools as it is at Helix. But it's called air bands. Did you have air bands at
Not that I remember.
Where'd you go to high school again?
University City.
That's right. Okay. So did you have air bands
Yeah.
at Poway? Okay.
Yeah.
So at Helix, it's like a big deal, you know, and there's a group that has been on campus there for a long time called the Wild Boys, and it's an all
Wild Boys with a Z.
with a Z.
I just can't take the name.
Okay, so it's long been established, okay, and so my sophomore year, I mean, honestly, as weird, like Helix, you think of football, you know, Reggie Bush, Alex Smith, you think of sports, you know, it's a good sports school. But also you think of air bands. You think of when you're an 8th grader and you know you're going to Helix, someday you want to be a Wild Boy.
Can you tell me what an air band is?
Yeah, I'll explain that.
So you're saying it's a big deal, and two guys from San Diego don't seem to think
air
it's a big
bands,
deal.
air bands is essentially it's like a 4 or 5 minute performance where you are telling a story through the mix of a bunch of different songs, you know. So for instance, my sophomore year was my first year, and got invited my sophomore year. I'm in, you know. I'm not saying no.
Right.
I'm in.
Can't say no
To be a Wild Boy. So my sophomore year, we had a choreographer, and so our like storyline was we were leprechauns, and we were we were trying to find the pot of gold. And so throughout the performance, a person would like say a quote, and then something to do with what they just said would be a song, you know. And so I'll have to show it to you, and maybe we can post it on the Instagram so people get an idea of like what I'm talking about. It's kind of hard to explain, but the big thing for the Wild Boys is it's a bunch of different genres. So you got hip hop, you got oldies, you got, you know, a bunch of different songs, you know, kind of mixed into one. And it's short shorts, it's tight clothes, and honestly, you're not going to believe it, but it's mostly like athletes and you know, the cool kids back at Helix, you know.
We're not joining the group, right?
So no, I mean, I would love to go back and do it all over again, but it's a dance performance, you know. And so sophomore year, and there's money involved, okay? There's money. So my sophomore year, we win. I wasn't a captain or anything, so I didn't see any of it. But the captains got paid. I think we won like $1,000 that year from the school, wow. And then you go on to districts. So the top 2 from your school, you know, compete, and then you go on to districts and you compete against other schools where you could win even more money. I think we got second my sophomore year. My junior year, we lost our choreographer, so someone needed to step up to the plate.
Damn.
Don't
do it.
Your boy did.
Wow.
I stepped up to the plate. No experience in choreography. Very little. You know, just a dancer at heart. You know, I reached in, I dug deep, and watched a lot of music videos. But long story short, we won.
Oh
wow.
We won back to back. You know, so and then went to districts and
you
got
know,
third
man.
again. But that year, okay, I was a captain, and I wasn't making any money in high school. So like $1,000 between 2 guys, like that's a lot of money.
I think it's kind of messed up. Only the captains get the money.
Why? I
Like, how big's the
choreographed
group?
every
I know, but
dance.
how big's the group?
It was like 18 guys or something.
Yeah, why only 2 guys get the
Well,
money?
there is some truth to that, because it's like months of, you know, 4 or 5 times a week for an hour and a half, 2 hours at night practicing. So it's like these guys are coming and putting in their time, you know, and it's like 2 guys are kind of, you know, but it's like I put in, me and the other guy, one of my good friends, Armando, like put in exponentially more time putting the music together, choreographing the dances. And it's just like I said, it was a great time. Like I as goofy and as funny as it is, like when I think of high school, that's what I think of. Like, that was the most entertaining time of that.
I went to those.
Did you?
My sister's group, I remember when she was in high school, won like Poway's air band and went on to the next level, whatever it was, where it was maybe all of San Diego
Put
districts.
some respect on it.
I mean, you could just educate me. I don't know what it's called.
Districts.
Okay, she went to districts, and yeah, so I remember going to those. Good times. They definitely weren't called the Wild Boys.
Her group?
I don't think when you told me the story that I knew it was air band, because I would have said I knew what air band was.
air
I
bands.
thought it was just like hip hop.
No.
You made it seem like you were like in a hip hop dance crew.
No. I would love to be,
Okay.
but that's not what it is.
When was the last time you danced?
I mean, I dance every day. Like,
That's what's
Janie likes to dance. You know, we just dance around.
You don't have to talk about what you guys do.
Now, but like, big wedding guy.
Yeah.
If you have, like, you guys got to get married, because
Nah,
I'm
we're
a
good.
huge wedding dancer. I mean, that's the unfortunate thing, right? Is like, where can you get together and like dance
Right.
with your friends?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess club. I'm 28,
Right.
married. I don't really go out to the clubs anymore or whatever. But I mean, I'd be lying if I said I wouldn't. I'm not watching our performance, at least 10 times a year.
Yeah,
Like,
you're gonna have to send
YouTube.
us those videos.
I'll send them.
At least a clip of it or something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, that's gonna have to go with the.
I'm gonna need you to send it like today.
I'll send it whenever. Just
No, today.
okay.
Yeah. All right. Last question I want to ask. We talked about it a little bit when you were talking about how you would listen to the first episode, and talking about athletes and the Mike Trout LeBron debate. I kind of feel like I sense what side you're taking, but do you have a take on that?
Does it have to be either or?
Yes, you have to take a definitive stance. That's the way this works.
Yeah. You're.
Yeah, Dimash, give him a little
pick
pitch.
player.
Can I say something though about this? When I think of an athlete, and not just because I'm a baseball player, but the one guy that pops up into my mind instantly, Mookie.
Okay.
The guy's bowled a 300.
Right.
He is a phenomenal baseball player, obviously, and not just like offensively, but defensively, like what he can do too. It's unbelievable. And then like we've seen him on the internet running routes, seen him playing basketball. Like, is there anything the guy can't do? When I think of an athlete, I think of Mookie Betts. A Swiss Army knife of all Swiss Army knives. Who's arguably the greatest player, in the league. Arguably he's up there, in his sport. But then along the lines of like what we were talking about, it's like I'm so disappointed when I see Tom Brady throw a baseball, or when I see LeBron James throw a baseball, or when I see them, like a lot of these athletes that are extremely good in their sports swing a golf club. I'm just like,
Yeah.
it lets me down.
Yeah.
If we're talking about impressive, has there ever been anything more impressive than watching LeBron James play basketball? Like impressive athleticism? I'm not so sure. But like when I think of an athlete, I think of somebody, that
Adaptable.
is adaptable, that can pick up something and just be ping pong, be
Right.
good at it.
Right.
Like that's what I think of.
So and I don't disagree with that at all. But the important thing about the question is we're talking about two guys presumably that are not able to do, like LeBron isn't able to play baseball right now, and assuming that Mike Trout has limited, if any, basketball experience. Like if you threw Mookie out there, it's like, okay, he can already play a little bit. You know what I'm saying? So it's like it's a different measure of athleticism if you're taking something that's brand new to somebody that they have no experience in and telling them to learn it. You know what I mean?
So is it essentially like what takes more athleticism to be elite at that sport that they're playing currently?
No, just which one could learn a completely new set of moves.
I would
I guess which one could, because ultimately the question comes down to me is like which one would be most effective at a sport that they have no prior ability.
Yeah, I would say without a doubt Mike Trout, because you can play good defense. He's fast. Maybe could cherry pick for a couple points and get a couple baskets. But
not good defense.
Well, yeah, I'm in the camp that is like hitting a baseball off of an elite pitcher is one of the hardest things to do on the planet. And not saying, I'm not saying, hitting a 3-pointer with a hand in your face isn't. I'm just saying I think hitting a 98 mile an hour fastball with movement is probably the hardest thing to do in sports, And then, I mean, it's kind of hard to like equate the two sports, but then like having to go play defense, like what position is he playing outfield? Like if he gets a shot hit at him in the infield, it's like,
yeah,
he's got to field it, he's got to pick it up, he's got to grip it and throw it over to first base. Like it's a very difficult sport.
Could you see? Because the thing I point to on LeBron playing baseball is, could you see LeBron adapting into a decent outfielder?
Yeah, I think just speed and athleticism wise,
He can definitely cover nobody. There's no question he can cover the ground.
Anybody who could run like that, like anybody in the league. Like if you can learn how to catch fly, maybe he might know. For all I don't know, but like know.
We're assuming these two don't know anything.
So I think he could learn, and then obviously with the speed. Throwing the ball in is going to be a challenge. It's like we know, like when you haven't grown up throwing a ball, it's just sort of a difficult thing to do. But
it's it's so weird. Me and Ben have talked about. I think we've all talked about this. It's so weird watching people that can't throw because it doesn't make any sense.
Especially quarterbacks, man. It's like. It just breaks my heart because I watch these guys.
But you can't throw a football, so
Bennett.
You can't throw a football.
Bennett.
We just saw this the other day.
Oh my gosh, Bennett.
Can you throw a football?
Yes.
Were you throwing good passes the other day?
Yeah, it was windy and a flat ball. But yes, I can throw a football.
Okay.
Can I ask you one thing?
Sure.
Super Bowl favorite.
Start of the year, or I guess after the Niners start getting hurt a bunch, and the other team, I said Saints, and they're playing good right now. I mean, we'll see what happens when Breeze comes back. So I'd probably go Saints Chiefs in the Super Bowl.
Okay, who do you?
I'd have to see. I mean, depending on how the playoffs go a little bit.
But I'm just saying, who's your team to win the Super Bowl? If you had to pick one team,
I'd probably say Saints right now.
Okay,
I think they're the most complete team. But don't count out those Niners, man. Playoffs start tonight.
Here's my thing with the Chiefs. In my mind, until it happens in the playoffs, this is crazy, but I just can't see them losing. I can't see them losing with that guy at quarterback. And I think right now
they do,
but it's another thing in the playoffs to do it. And you say they do, but it's like last night the Chiefs played probably as poorly as they've played all season against their worst games have been against some pretty bad teams. The Chargers have played them tough. The Raiders are okay. The Raiders have played them tough, and then the Broncos. There's something to your division. Your divisional opponent, but there's something in the NFL to still getting it done, and that's the Chiefs are extremely good at that. If you give 15 the ball with time left with all those athletes, it's. For me, it's really difficult in my mind to see that football team losing in the playoffs.
So you're picking the Chiefs.
Oh, yeah.
Who you got in the NFC?
I like the Saints. I think the NFL is interesting because I really feel like it's shifting. It's been shifting, but I feel like the Chiefs and sort of the Seahawks are really changing the NFL to... It used to be good teams have good defenses. The teams that are going to make a run in the playoffs, that you got to have a good defense. You can have as good of an offense as you want. You can put up all these points, but if you don't have a good defense, you don't have a shot in playoffs. And I think the Chiefs are starting to change that, where it's you just got to be serviceable on defense. They have good athletes on defense, but I wouldn't say they have a good defense. But I would say by far that they are the Super Bowl favorites because of what they can do offensively. And get a stop every now and then on defense is really all they need to do, And I think it's interesting, just watching the game last night, it's they don't ever run the ball. And I know they had their guy out.
I think that's problematic, but
is it?
I said I think so.
I think they have enough guys.
I think for the past 2 years with Patrick Mahomes, obviously went to the AFC Championship and lost an overtime game against the Patriots. Mm-hmm. Obviously won last year. I have feelings about it. Mm-hmm. If they don't convert what I think was kind of a miracle 3rd and 15 that was just blown coverage, they lose the Super Bowl because they're one-dimensional and the Niners were able to shut down that one dimension. I think if the Texans play it differently last year, I think they lose the Texans because they're one-dimensional. I understand they then went off, and I don't think the Texans are very good, but I understand what you're saying is that, they play these close games, they end up winning them. So until they lose, and I saw them related to the Warriors a little bit, and I have always felt that way about the Warriors, where it's until I see them lose a series. Mm-hmm. So I get that with the Chiefs, but I don't think they're unbeatable. Mm. I think the thing they do well is obviously better than every other team, but I always worry when a team's one-dimensional, especially as the playoffs go, and especially being in Kansas City. I know Mahomes obviously has a very strong arm, but sometimes the weather, doesn't allow you to throw the ball like you want to throw the ball. And if you don't have another way to beat you, I just like the teams that have multiple ways to beat you. Mm-hmm. So when I look at the Saints, they have a good defense. assuming Drew Brees comes back and is healthy, they can throw the ball, they can run the ball. They have a good offensive line, defensive line. I just think they're the most complete team.
See, I feel the way about this. I feel opposite toward the Saints that I feel towards the Chiefs, where they've had these incredible teams.
Yeah, that's fair.
One of the best defenses in the league, probably the best, and numbers on offense, and for whatever reason in the playoffs, sort of like the Ravens, it's just like it hasn't come together. It's like, I mean that call,
Right.
last year, 2 years ago, it's just incredible.
Right.
They should have won the game,
Right.
but there's something to a team always being able to get it done, at least from what we've seen of them in the Chiefs, to a team that hasn't been able to do it yet in the playoffs recently, So I feel that way. I feel the opposite towards the Saints, who great team, a lot of weapons, Drew Brees hopefully getting healthier soon. But until they do it, I don't buy it. And until somebody comes up and beats the Chiefs, especially with the team they have this year, like I don't see that guy losing in the playoffs,
Yeah, that's fair. All right, so we got Chiefs Saints, me taking Saints. You're going Chiefs Saints, but you're taking Chiefs.
Yeah.
D-Wash is locked in on Steelers Seahawks.
I like the Steelers.
I want to say.
I like the Steelers. A lot of hype around Big Ben.
Yeah.
Big Ben.
They're also playing tonight. I don't even know if
They are.
D-Wash knew that.
They are.
There's 2 Monday night games tonight.
Last take.
Okay.
Okay.
They're playing the Reds football team.
The Washington
the Washington football team.
That's been tough to adjust to, by the way. It's just
Apologize
it's hard. Yeah.
to our listeners out there.
I kind of hope that every team just adopts a football team.
Okay. Let's hear your last take.
Now, you don't have to put this on if we're over time, whatever. But I've been meaning to tell you guys this because I think it's a pretty interesting take and I feel pretty strongly about it.
Okay.
That's what we're here for.
One of the most underrated skills of a quarterback to me, and what can take a guy to the next level, is the ability to slide comfortably. And not in the sense of like, obviously, like you got to get down to stay healthy, right? But if you look at the guys that have played baseball and know how to slide like naturally, where it just comes naturally to them when they're out of the pocket. You look at Mahomes, you look at Kyler, Russ, some of these other guys who have played quite a bit of baseball. Their level of comfort out of the pocket, their level of comfort in the pocket, supersedes the rest because they're not, when you watch these guys that didn't slide, like that's a thing. Like guys that didn't grow up playing baseball. I remember Mariota at Oregon had to come out to baseball practice to learn how to slide, and it still didn't really work. Like it's a hard thing for whatever to like do. And so when you see some of these guys, it happened to Goff a couple weeks ago out of the pocket where he should have gone down before the half against the Niners, and he fumbled, because they look clumsy. They look very unathletic with the ball in their hands. But when you watch a guy like Mahomes or Kyler out of the pocket and you see them just like sliding into second base like they just hit a double, it just adds this like confidence to their game that I think is like is so crucial to their success, and then obviously the health aspect of it. But I've just seen like with these like baseball player quarterbacks that we have in the league now, like the 3 of them, they're 3 of the best in the league.
Yeah. Kyler, absolutely.
Oh my
Kyler's
gosh.
by far the best of it. The only exception I think about is Kaepernick was terrible at sliding. And that's where he got hurt sometimes because like he didn't know how to slide, which I always thought was interesting. I know he was mainly a pitcher, but yeah, I agree. Playing baseball his whole life, not knowing really how to slide.
Yeah.
I remember I always thought that was weird.
I think you're definitely onto something because it's like, okay, if you have to think about how you're going to get out of trouble, then it's like that's you're not going to be able to think about making a play.
Right.
If you know like, oh, this happens, I can just slide, or I can do this and that, then you can actually look downfield.
Watch, when these guys get out of the pocket like next week, it's interesting. Like there's a swagger and like a confidence when they're out of the pocket that it's just like, I know I'm not going to get hit.
They also know they can't get hit,
Right.
Which is a separate issue.
It is. But if you slide late, or a lot of these guys are diving head first because they don't know how to slide, and it's like, now we're talking about, ball protection and fumbling, but also injury, where it's like, if these guys can just slide, it just, to me, it's like one of the more underrated things I've noticed this year in some of the elite quarterback play.
Right. Well, I think that's a very good take. I agree. I mean, I agree with you.
Yeah.
But yeah, we appreciate you coming on the podcast. I can't plug anything for you because I know you're not on social media.
Yeah, no, it's just Facebook.
Check out Jake Reed on Facebook.
Yeah, look up Jake Reed on Facebook. I don't even use Facebook anymore.
MySpace?
No.
No MySpace?
No. Is MySpace even a thing?
It actually is. Strangely, it's still like, I don't know if it's still a social media platform, but it's like if you go to myspace.com right now, it will take you to like an organized website.
I saw a MySpace commercial.
Did you
A
really?
couple of years ago, I think.
Maybe it's making a comeback. Big Tom.
All right. You want to take us out, D-Wash?
Oh yeah. Check us out on Instagram at Riding the Bus Podcast. On Twitter at Riding the Bus Pod. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. You got the name on that? It's just.
I think it's just Riding the Bus Podcast. But I guess we should say the reason, if you listen to the last episode, the reason why there wasn't a video on YouTube last week was my fault. I lost the video. But if everything goes according to plan, this will be available on Wednesday as our first YouTube video. So make sure to check that out. We'll post some on Instagram when we do that. But yeah, Jake Reed, thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me, guys. It was a pleasure.
All right.
Thank you.